Okay, so let's review what we have designed and we'll see what is pending. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
so in the search page, right, like we could see the delete functionality, create functionality, and the view as well as update. Okay, so there is no delete. Yeah, delete also there, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. This is
and
the.
yeah. So now what we do is like here. I mean, if you observe the invoice DML page, as of now, we worked only on the header information, right? Let us say when you click on update, we are showing only invoice header data. Okay, so now we'll see
Yeah.
the invoice lines data also. We'll incorporate lines data. Okay, and we'll also again, like we'll show the line information appropriate mode, like it can be create mode, update mode, as well as view mode. So for the lines also it should be the same way. Okay,
Oh, right.
so we'll try to achieve that. So now what we do is we have a table called invoice lines. So let us see that. So the relationship between the invoice header and as well as the invoice line is the invoice header ID. Okay. And within the lines table, we have a primary key invoice line ID. Okay.
Okay.
So now what we do is we'll try to create the entity object, the view object on this particular lines table, and we'll see like how exactly we insert rows into the line table. Okay. And you'll find, see,
Okay.
like one more thing, you'll find lot number of approaches. Now in our case, we are following an independent approach. I mean to say, we are manually inserting the lines in, we'll try to insert rows into the lines table manually. Okay, we'll not be using any of your database feature or maybe any of the entity object features.
Okay.
I mean to say, like here, the header data is showing separately and line data is showing separately as a line table, right? Generally you have a what you call
Master.
show hide kind of region, or maybe a master child kind of fashion, right? But here in our case we are not showing in a master child fashion.
Okay.
I'll tell, maybe from your report's background, if you consider, you have something called master child, right? Or maybe group left or group above.
Yeah.
So in those scenarios, what happens is you'll see header data and just below you'll see a line data. You'll just header data like this, and below itself you'll see line data, just as
Yeah.
a group above kind of thing, right? So no,
Okay.
we are not working on this area, okay? We are independently making them as independent regions, and that's what we are trying to achieve, okay?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So now we have to create entity object as well as view object. So
Okay.
yeah, okay, CS. Okay, this is a line
Okay.
object, and yeah,
Oh,
click on next. Now generate the view object also.
okay.
Evo view.
Okay.
So this step will generate one entity object and one view object.
Okay.
So assign the viewer to the AM. Yeah. So now what we do is like we have assigned, I mean, we have the creation of the components using declarative fashion is done. Now coming to the business logic, what we have to do is, so here we are opening the page in the three modes: create, update, as well as view. Okay. So now what we do
Okay.
is, let us say, assume that like let's start with the create. So what I will do is I'll click on cancel. Now just click on create. So when we click on create, what are we doing? We are coming to the DML page, okay, and we are inserting an empty row into the we're inserting empty row into the header data. Okay. So what should happen to the
Yeah.
lines one? Let us say, lines, what we do is we'll try to represent in a table region. Okay. So what should happen to the lines functionality? What should happen to lines functionality? So by default, like you cannot insert a row into the table region, right? We can insert, but I mean, it's not needed, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah.
Header data is mandatory because that's a basic thing. That's the reason we have to insert the empty row there. But for the lines concept, what we do is user has to explicitly click on insert line, then only we'll insert the row into the table region. Okay.
Okay. Add line or something.
Yes, add line. Yes. Now what we do,
Okay.
so we'll go to DML page. First of all, we have to design our view layer, right? Invoice DML page.
Mm-hmm.
So we have page button bar, we have the header update data region as well as header view region. So initially we'll work on only the updatable stuff. So that what we do is we'll just create one more header region and we'll name it as lines update region, lines update data region.
Okay.
Okay. So on this one, we'll just create a table region using a wizard.
Okay.
Lines.
Last.
Yeah. And here we'll select. Okay.
Yeah.
Now in this line table region, we'll provide the table action for add line. New table action. Submit button. Add line button. Okay.
Okay.
So now whenever user clicks on add line, we have to insert a new line into the lines table. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you insert a line into the line table, what is the thing? We have to make sure that it should have the header ID, and also we have to make sure that it has to have a line ID sequence.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So that's what we have to do. So let's do that. Okay. So now what we do in the aim IMPL, so we'll just write the add lines logic first. And also we require the row IMPL for the invoice lines, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we have to generate that. So inserting a line is again the same concept, but now the basic thing is when you add a line, we require the header ID also. So first of all, get the header ID. So header vivo. Okay. So now we'll get the header ID from here.
Okay. So can we also use Webbean here to get the header ID, Sri?
Yeah. So Webbean also you can get it, but in the aim IMPL you cannot have any Webbean access.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But vice versa is possible. Within the CO you can get Vivo information, but in the aim you cannot get the Webbean information.
Yeah.
In the CO we can write all, whatever the logic which I am writing in the aim, everything you can write in the CO.
Okay.
Okay.
So sequence.
Yeah. So we have one sequence, I guess. Noise. Yeah. Invoice line ID sequence.
So here we directly put number.
Because that was already imported. The package was already imported. That's the reason That's the reason, we can just
Oh,
mention just the class name. We does not need to mention the package name. So, but
okay.
how do you know, like, I mean, one more question, like, how do we know which particular package this number is importing? What we can do is just scroll up here, and it shows all the imports which we have done so far. And for the
Okay.
number, it clearly shows Oracle JBO domain number, right? This one.
Okay.
So that's how we try to identify.
Yeah. Okay.
And explicitly, if you want to have a different data type for the same class, then we have to mention the appropriate, let us say like this, you have to mention java.util number or something,
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
So now lines row is equal to lines vivo dot create lines row dot. The logic is same if you observe the logic, the creation of a row is everywhere, wherever you deal with the entity, you have to have this. I mean, wherever you have the vivo, always you use this insert row kind of logic because that's how you have to
Okay.
insert, right? There is no other way.
Okay.
So this is a core of the way framework. Now lines row dot set invoice header ID. We have to set invoice header ID also as well as line ID.
Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
here if you observe, when we insert any row into the vivo, if you remember, we have to make sure that either you have to execute the vivo or make sure that you at least call the set max fetch size, isn't it?
Okay. Mm.
So
Yeah.
now in this case, when a user clicks on add lines row, the expectation is that our vivo is already initialized. That's what we have to consider, right? We cannot write vivo.set max fetch size or maybe vivo.execute query here. The reason is that add lines will be called many times, right? N number of times user will call the add lines. So that's the reason we should not write our initialization logic of the vivo here. So at what point of time
Okay.
we have to write the initialization? So in the DML CVO, if you see, so when the process request comes into picture during the page load, there we are calling one of the A method, right? Insert invoice evo vivo row. So within this one, what we
Okay.
can do, I mean, see, we can also have a different method, but when the invocation is coming to aim already, and if you want to call one more method, the easiest thing is we can just write the logic here itself, isn't it?
Okay.
So what we do is first of all get the lines vivo xxcs invoice lines vivo is equal to get, and here what we do is I'll just simply follow this logic.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just executing the vivo. Even though, let us say when you open the page in the create mode, I'm just still executing the vivo.
Okay.
You will not have any data, but still vivo will the vivo will get initialized. But what is the advantage in this scenario is the thing is if you don't do that way, what will happen? You have to use set max fetch size. So if you just go on, we just need to go on inserting that, right?
Yeah.
So that will also
Okay.
work. In the create mode, yes, that will work. In the create mode, we can just make use of set max fetch size. But if you consider the update mode or delete mode, execution is the best. Execution is the thing which we require. If you consider the view mode or update mode, we have to make sure that it should be executed. So the only option is in the create mode, the same way we can just try with the set max fetch size. This we can try, or else
Oh,
rather than having all these different logics, simply we can just do like this.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So now let's try. Yeah, we have to make sure that we have to call it right button. Okay. So when a user clicks on add button, add invoice line button, we have to call add invoice lines row. Okay.
So in the process form request tree, we are executing the VO only if there is a invoice header present, right?
Yeah, for the
So
header,
not
we have done that way. For the header, we have done that way. But for the lines, we're
okay.
just simply executing it. For the lines,
So even
yeah,
if we let's say we did a we clicked the create invoice button, right? So when we come to the next page, the invoice header will be empty, but we have inserted a row, empty row in the header.
yes,
Even in that case, are we calling the execute query for the lines?
yes, yes,
But there wouldn't be any data, right? So it will be
yes,
null.
yes. It will be null, but the Vivo will be the Vivo will be available for the execution, right? We
Oh,
can still insert the row.
oh,
So that's the major.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. So it will be initialized with null. Okay.
yeah. So now I'll just click on search, click on update. Now just see here. Now, of course, it seems like it may be having data. Let's try for other one. Let me show you other one. Let's click on back. Now, when you click on create invoice, just observe here. Now, can you see here? It is
Yeah, no
showing it
results
as
form.
no results found. So it means that the Vivo
Yeah.
got executed. And simply what we can
Okay.
try, we can just try add line. This should have 342 and this is a line ID and this is a line number
Okay.
and other information we can just keep it.
Okay.
Right. So now let's observe the line data from the backend. Invoice lines where invoice header ID is equal to 342. Right. We got
So
one
now
line. Yeah.
there is a line created in header also, right? See with 342.
Yes. See, this is invoice header ID. This is invoice line
Yeah.
ID. Right.
Uh,
Now, in
yeah.
the yes, as you said, in the header also it has to have a record with this invoice header ID. Yes. Invoice header. Right.
Okay.
Now, where is the record? 342. Yeah. Surprise. One minute. Why it is not saved? Any mandatory parameters? No. Yeah. See, it could be some mandatory parameters are there, but it was not raising the exception. Once I entered the invoice number, I could see the record here, right?
Okay. Yeah.
342. 342 in the header and 342 in the lines also. Now let us try to insert multiple lines.
Okay.
I'll just click on save. Now just see the lines, right? 142,
Yeah.
143, 144, 145. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now what we do is let's click on back. So we, as of now, for 342 we have 4 lines. Just click on back now. Now what we do
Okay.
is just click on search. Now try to see the same 342. What happened to 342?
The next page.
It is there in the database, right? 342. Oh, okay. Okay. The reason is uh, we joined with a lookup, right? Remember?
Okay. Yeah. So
That,
draft. Okay.
that's the issue. That's the issue. We can just try set status is equal to
I thought we defaulted the value for draft also, Sri.
Yeah, but let's try. Yeah, can you see that's the issue? But
Okay.
let's see. When you click on create, what was happening? Yeah, status. Yeah, still I think we missed it.
I think we did not map it because one was saying meaning, the other was the actual code, right? We
Yeah,
did
but
not change that.
no, I wrote the logic for both things. Like let's say set status, right? Yeah, can you see set status meaning? Okay, first,
Okay.
for submitted I have done this, and for the draft there is nothing we have done. That's the issue. See, like for the
Okay.
draft you'll come here, right? Insert evo vivo row. This is a place where we come, right? So we are
Okay.
inserting a row. We just like we just made it as read only, but we did not do anything there. Row dot set
Okay.
status. We have to make sure that you mention the status and status meaning.
Okay.
Yeah, now this will work. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
so now click on update. Okay. Yeah, sorry. We thought of seeing in a view mode. Click on search. Now click on view.
Okay.
Now the expectation is that this line's data also should be shown in the view mode, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah.
So if we want to achieve the same like a view mode logic, what we have to do? We have to get the table region. I mean, we have to get this particular header region. Nothing but this header region and table region we have to create one more time, and based on that we have to set render true or false, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is one way of doing it. So far we have just followed the Java approach. Like we just followed the beans approach to set render the. What we have used is we have used Java beans approach for the purpose of rendering the components, changing the
Okay.
properties of the components.
Yeah.
So the one which we've used, I don't say it is wrong, but the thing is this is used in a very rare case scenario. But sometimes we prefer to use either this one or maybe other approach which we'll discuss now. Okay. So as a
Okay.
developer, we have to know both the approaches. That's the reason we just discussed initially this easier approach. But now what we require is like when you have like let us say when you're designing a page and where you have larger number of components to be shown or not shown or to be enabled or disabled on based on some business condition, preferably we have to go with the spell logic. Okay, it's called simplest possible
Okay.
expression, and this particular language we have to use a concept with this particular one. We have to use one more thing called PPR, partial page rendering.
Okay.
So in this one it's like similar to Ajax. What we do is rather than refreshing the total page, we just need to enable or disable a particular component at runtime. Only
Okay.
that particular component will be refreshed. That is why it is called PPR, partial page rendering. Only the
Okay.
only the portion of the page will get refreshed, not the total page.
Okay.
Okay. So what we have to do is to understand the PPR concept before implementing the PPR concept in our DML page. Initially, we'll just have some samples on the PPR, and then we'll incorporate that logic here.
Okay.
Okay. So now
Yeah. Sure.
what I want to do is I just want to design one simple dummy pages. I mean the simple pages to understand the PPR concept. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, as of now, if you observe the Vivo, there are two types of Vivos we have discussed. One is entity-based object, entity with SQL, and other one is just a SQL, right? These are
Yeah.
two types of Vivos we have discussed. Now, we have another last Vivo, which is called programmatical Vivo. There is no SQL query involved here,
Okay.
okay? This is called programmatical Vivo. Now, in this PPR concept, we'll try to use a programmatical Vivo because we don't want any Vivo to be executed. But like if you observe, for any of the component to apply the property at runtime, we have to use the spell logic. The spell logic requires a Vivo as well as the attribute name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So if you remember the update button or the Vivo icon, we have been passing the values using spell logic, isn't it? For the view, what
Yeah.
we have done on the fire action parameters, we mentioned our spell logic.
Yes.
So that's the reason for the spell, at least you require a Vivo as well as attribute, isn't it? So now in this
Okay.
scenario, when you're working with the PPR, there is no need to use any programmatical based query, right? I mean to say it does not need any Vivo which is based on SQL because we just require only rows to be available. So that's the reason we have this programmatical Vivo where we insert the rows programmatically, not from the database. You'll not get any data from the database. Whatever the rows which we insert, that will be available only to the Java level.
Okay.
That is why it is called programmatical VIVO. Okay.
Okay.
So what we do is we'll just design very simple page to understand this concept. Model view CVO. So here, so we'll have AM and we'll just say programmatical VIVO, or sometimes generally developers we call it as PVIVO also, properties VIVO. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I'll just say programmatical VIVO. Now I'll just say PPR sample page, partial page rendering sample,
Okay.
and PPR sample CVO. Now in this one, what I would like to do is I'd like to show the functionality of two properties. One is enable disable property, and another one is render property. Okay. So I'll just
Okay.
say render enable. So in this one, in the render, I'll just create one item and I'll create one button. So now when I click on button 1, what happens is this item 1 initially either it will just perform a toggle operation. If it is already rendered, it will not show. If it is not rendered, it will show. We'll just try to work on this toggle operation on the button 1 for item 1. Okay.
Okay.
And the same way,
Yeah.
enable functionality, what we do is for item 2 and for button 2, when a user clicks on button 2, if it is already enabled, it will disable. If it is disabled, it will enable. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll see this logic. So first of all, have the Vivo name, programmatical, and also we can make it as PVivo like this, PVivo, the naming
Okay.
convention. So this is very much important, and this is used most of the times in the normal OF pages. This the spell PPR logic.
Okay.
New view object, click on next. Now we have to choose the last one, rows populated programmatically.
Okay.
Click on next. Now you will not have any query. What you will have is just attributes. We'll just say new attribute. So I'll just say one is enable flag, updatable always, and I require to set this as Boolean, because for any of the component, if you see, if you want to set the properties, mostly it will be Boolean type only, true or false.
Okay.
Enable flag, and another one is render flag. Updatable always. Click on next. Click on next. Now generate the row MPL also. Click on next and finish. Double click on the AM. Assign the Vivo to the AM. Programmatical PVivo. Apply and OK.
Okay.
Now let's write the let's design the view layer. New. New OA component and page.
Okay.
PPR sample page. And set the controller also. PPR sample. And here set the default properties. Okay. So we'll try to create two regions, two header regions. Okay. New. To just distinguish between the components.
Yeah.
So the first one will be render region, we call it as.
Okay.
Or maybe render region. And another one we call it as enable region.
Okay.
Now on this render region we'll have two items, new item. Okay. So this item 1 is a text input, let it be, and item 2 will be this I'll change it to submit button. We'll name it as button 1, or maybe
Yeah.
I can set it as render button.
Okay.
Toggle render. Okay. And the same way
Okay.
in the enable region, I'll create 2 items. Okay, and this one I'll set it as enable button, and I'll change this one to
Submit button.
yeah. Toggle enable. Okay, yeah. So now the expectation is that how do we apply the property on a particular item when a user performs action. That's a major important thing we have to understand. Okay, and
Okay.
now what we do is, first of all, we have to create empty row for the Vivo. Until unless we have a row in the Vivo, there is no meaning to the Vivo, isn't it?
Okay.
So now in this one, the Vivo which we are using, it is not having any query. Then what do you mean by inserting a row in that? So whatever the row we have, we just need to insert the row the way we are inserting in the earlier scenarios also. The same thing, the same concept applies here.
Okay.
So make sure that you have the row MPL. So let's
Okay.
see the logic. Public init programmatical PVO. Okay. So in this general concept, the PVO concept, what we do is we always have only one row. We will not insert any rows into this one. By default, we'll insert only one row in this one.
Okay.
Okay. So here, either we can use execute query or we can just use vivo.setMax fetch size also. Nothing will have any effect here, right? Because it will have
Okay.
only, there is no query execution concept at all. So yeah, now the thing is, before inserting the row into the Vivo, what we do is the flags, there are two flags, right? Enable flag and render flag. I'll set them as false by default.
Okay.
So in my scenario, I'm just setting them as false. But generally, the expectation is that if you're calling this page from other page, we have to set these particular flags based on the business logic, isn't it?
Passwords. Okay.
As of now, I'm just setting them as false.
Okay.
Okay, so this method we have to call from the AM, isn't it? From the AM, we'll call this method. So in the PR method, we'll call this one.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so this is initialization logic. That's fine. But on the button action, on the button action, how we are performing a toggle operation. Okay, that logic will write now. So what we do is in the aim IMPL we'll write the business logic required whenever user clicks on either toggle button or render button. Okay, so let us say render button logic. Okay, one is for the purpose of render button logic and other one is for the purpose of toggle button logic.
Okay.
So I have to have the Vivo information. So I'll just get the Vivo. So here we can just mention Vivo dot first. That's it. Because it is having only one row, just mention Vivo dot first. That will be enough. Or maybe current row.
Okay.
Now what we want to do? If row dot get render flag, if the flag value is already true, I just want to set it as false. Set render flag as false.
Okay.
So if condition just requires a boolean attribute, right? That's the reason I'm not considering is equal to, not equal to kind of thing. Else
Else.
row dot set,
True. Yeah.
right? So it'll come to else part only if it is false. So if it is already false, make it as to true. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
So we can copy the same logic. Only thing is, in other case, we just require a different attribute. That's it. Instead of get render flag, I just need to choose get Oh, here just
Enable flag.
yeah. Okay, get enable flag, and same way set enable flag. Okay, this is what we have to do, and these particular logic we have to call based on the appropriate button action, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Process form request.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so let me check the button names first. So sometimes this may have issue. This is my render button, and another one is enable button. Okay, yeah, now let's try. So yeah, one more important thing, coding wise, whatever we have written so far, that is exactly we have been following from long time, isn't it? Installation of a row,
Okay.
handling a button, everything is same. Now we have to apply the spell property on the item, isn't it? Without that, whatever the value which you change in the Vivo, it will not have any effect, isn't it? So now what I have to get the Vivo name as well as the attribute names, isn't it? To use the spell, what we require? We require the Vivo name as well as the this particular attribute's name.
Attribute name. Okay.
One is render flag and other one is enable flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll just construct our spell dollar OA dot and then render flag. Okay, this is for the render flag spell, and other one for the enable flag spell.
Okay.
Okay, this is how we have to construct the spell.
Okay.
And now we'll copy this particular one, and what we do in the page. So which one? Render flag. So render flag logic, I'll just apply on this item one. So this item one, on the rendered property of this item, would like to apply the spell logic. So in the rendered property, by default, the value is true, right? If you observe, you'll
Okay.
have either true or false. So I'll just set on this one like this,
Okay.
right?
All right.
So based on the value which is available in the render flag of that particular Vivo, that
Mm-hmm.
way the component will get displayed or not displayed.
Okay.
The same way will work on the enable flag property.
Okay.
So enable is nothing but, we don't have enable directly, we have something called disable. By default, the disabled
Oh,
is false. It means that enable is true, isn't it?
yeah.
So I'll just apply on this one, the enable flag.
So Sri, can't we set this property in process request?
So using Java logic, we can set it, right? Using Java logic, get the bean, and based on that, you
Uh,
can set it. But now we don't want to have a Java logic, right? That's what we are,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Understand.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Java logic, like set, like last time we have used set render false or set render false, right? The same way you have set read only, set
Yeah.
disable, set enable. We have lot number of properties based on the item which you are using.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Got it.
So that's how we try to.
Okay.
So let's try this one. Yeah. So now here, if you observe in the render region, the item one is not getting shown by default. Okay. And but if you observe in the enable region, the item is getting shown by default. Okay.
Okay.
remember, like we have set the two flags to false. So in the first case, the false was getting applied on the render property. That's the reason render false means the component will not be shown. But in the second case,
Disable.
disable false, nothing but enable is true, right? Disable false means the component is enabled. That's the reason the component is getting shown. Now just click on
Okay.
this button, toggle render. Now can you see the component? Now again I'll click on this button, it'll go off,
Okay. Yeah.
right? And try in the second case, let us say test. Can you see?
Yeah.
This component got
Disabled.
disabled. Try again, right?
Okay.
So this is how it will work.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now this particular simple basic logic we have to apply in our DML, our invoice DML stuff.
Okay.
So in our case, what we want to do, we want to show a set of regions, nothing but more. In our case, it is only render kind of logic. No, there is no disable logic. Disable logic will apply in the buttons also.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's implement that. We can either reuse the existing Vivo or we can just create one more Vivo. Either way it will work.
Okay.
So what we can do is, so we have this programmatical Vivo, right? So maybe, yeah, better I'll just create one more Vivo and I will name it as status P Vivo. Okay.
Okay.
New Vivo, and we'll just set it as status P Vivo. Click on new, and we'll have view flag, and we just require either 2 or 3. What we can do is for the create mode as well as update mode, it is same logic, right? But only the difference is for the view,
Okay.
right? So that's the reason we just have view as well as update flag.
Okay.
And assign the Vivo to the aim. Now in this also the same, like the basic thing, insertion of a empty row should be there, right? We can just follow the same logic.
So we have to create a new region also, right, Steve?
Yeah, we have to create that in the yes, init status P Vivo.
Okay. Row.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here we have to set the logic based on some value. So what we do is we have to pass the mode, and based on this one, what we do, if mode str is not equal to null and if mode is equal to view, okay, row dot set view flag will be true, row dot set update flag will be false.
Okay.
Else row dot,
Opposite,
yeah, opposite. Okay.
yeah.
So this logic we have to call when we have to call on the PPR method of our DML CVO.
Yeah.
So either you can call it explicitly or just we can mention within the same particular logic. Either way it will work. So I'll just say aim dot init status pvivo, just pass the mode. That's it. Okay. Now one more thing, what we require, we require one more table region, and also we have to apply the spell property and all the components on the all the header stuff and all the header components.
Yeah. So
So
can we apply it at the header region instead of doing it at all the items?
yeah, we'll apply at the header level only. We'll not apply at the item level, because
Okay.
item level also we can do it, but that's very tedious job for the developer. We have to check each and every component, and generally the requirements get
Okay.
changed. That's where you'll get delayed with the things, right? That's the reason I preferred header regions only.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just copy this one and paste this lines region, and I'll just set it as lines view region, and here also Yeah, invoice lines. And in the lines view region, what we do, all the components, whatever we have, just set them as message style text.
Yes. Okay.
Or else other way, what you can do, just click on right click here, click on edit region, click on view to region items, and here also you can set it this easier way.
Yeah. Okay.
And we does not require the table action. This one, we'll delete this one, or maybe we can try with a disable logic, but still let's delete this
This
one.
way. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or we can, like directly we can disable it. So there is no need to apply spell there. Directly we can make it as disable or render false. Yeah. So
Okay.
now coming to the other logic, major important one. How do we apply the spell logic on these regions, right? The same way. We just need to get the v1 name,
Yeah.
status p4, right? So, and get the attributes, update flag and view flag,
You like okay.
view flag. So now just mention update flag. Okay. And the same way,
View flag.
view flag. So this particular view flag will apply on the view header regions. There are two view header regions, isn't it? In the DML page,
Yeah.
lines update region, sorry, if you observe the DML page, we header view region as well as lines view region. So on the header view
Okay.
region, region, just search the render property. On this render property, just apply this logic, the spell.
Okay.
Okay. And the same way on the lines view region also apply the spell. And the same way this update flag will be applied on the update regions.
Okay. So this spell will be overriding the header region that we are going to set
Yeah, we have to
in
remove that.
the.
We have to remove that. So whichever calls latest, sir, whichever calls last, that particular logic will get applied, isn't it?
Yeah. So which is calling last three? The page one is getting called last.
Yeah, the Java logic which we have written is getting called last.
Oh, yeah. Java is calling last. Okay.
Yeah, so we just need to remove that or just comment it. So
Okay.
I'll just comment this logic, okay?
Okay.
So this is not required also. So yeah, so let's see how this works. Yeah, click on search. Now let us see all the functionalities one by one. So let's click on update. So in the update, we could see the data in update mode at the lines
Yeah.
level as well as header level. Click on
Yeah.
back. Try in the view mode, right? Got it?
Okay.
And one issue is this one. The save button, submit button should not be shown, and this should be shown in a read-only mode, disabled mode.
Okay. Okay.
So what we do is, it'll take
Save
this
the
particular,
last.
yeah. So the view is, see, here if you observe the update flag, what is the value of update flag now? It is false, right?
Yeah.
And what is the value? What is the value of this view flag current scenario? It is true. So
True.
I'll
Okay.
just make this logic
Disable.
view flag
Disable.
attribute. Yeah. I'll take the view flag attribute and on the DML page on this button on the disable property I will apply.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then understood, right?
Yes. Yes. Opposite. Okay.
Yes, opposite, right? So now what will happen? Disabled is to true in the view mode and this view flag will
Yeah.
be false, nothing but disable will be false in the create as well as update mode.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. See, or else what we can do is not to have any confusion, we can have one more attribute, that's it.
Okay.
So let's try now again. Yeah, right. Now these got disabled.
Okay.
Okay. So now we have seen the disable logic as well as render logic, right? So we just need to consider based on business logic. We just need to apply it appropriate places.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll stop here, and the next class we'll see some more functionalities.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
Yep.